everyone, it's Tawney. Today's video we are talking about 5 of my favorite releases slash launches in 2020. Now, I'm only sticking to eyeshadow palettes because I've realized that there are a lot of things that came out in 2020 and I'm not good at keeping up with what I bought, what I liked, what I disliked throughout the year because I realized that the year is a very long time. I barely know what I did the month of December. So, I've looked at my collection of eyeshadow palettes and the things that I've been using and figured out 5 things slash collections of launches that have released that really made me happy, really made me excited to try on makeup. And a lot of these palettes are things that I kind of took a step out of my comfort zone and decided to try things that I wouldn't normally have tried, and not so much things that other influencers have recommended, but more so things that I wanted to try just because I was interested in them. And that's kind of what I want to start doing more in 2021, is just trying to see what I like, not so much what all of YouTube likes, because I have found that there are products that I like that YouTube doesn't like and vice versa. So I kind of figure it's up to me to figure out what I like and dislike in the whole makeup and beauty sphere. So to get started, I'm going to talk about the newest eyeshadow palette that I have in my collection, and it is the Side by Side Nude Palette by Nabla. Now this is a brand I haven't heard of much this year up until October, November. I knew they existed, but I never tried anything of theirs. I have one of their Skin Flush blushes, I think it's called, and I really like it. I'm wearing it today, although I'm currently on 12-hour makeup, so it's kind of just sweating off me because I've been running around my apartment cleaning and doing laundry. I had to go to the market today, so I'm kind of just I'm just glad it's still looking decent. I'm looking very glowy and dewy, but I'll take it because at least I don't look bad. But this is what the palette looks like on the inside. I'm wearing this on my eyes today, but I did kind of a very minimal look on my eyes. I used Bonjour in my transition. I used Burnt Sienna and Tempera in my outer corner and underneath on my lower lash line. And then I went in with Better Society all over my lid. And this is one of the major glitter shades, but I just used my finger and just kind of dab, dab, dab. And I thought it looked really nice. I kind of wish I would have had a little bit of a colored base underneath just to try and umph it up a little bit, but it looks fine. And the craziest thing, it's not creasing at all. And this is hour 12, I believe, that I've been wearing this. So I'm pretty impressed. I'm wearing the Mulan eyeshadow primer underneath, which is you can obviously tell that's probably what I've been using because that's what I use for everything. But this is the first palette from Nabla I've tried, and I really like the formula of this. It blends very well. It seems very consistent all across the board between the shimmers and the mattes and the glitters. Oh, and I did use Ray of Light as my brow bone and my inner corner highlight, and that stayed up really well, which I'm one that I pick at my inner corner. It usually wears off very, the first thing that wears off of my face. So I'm really impressed with how it looks. I'd like to try to get more into some of these deeper cool tone colors and just kind of see how they work on me and see how I can make them work, because that's kind of one of my things for the new year, is to try and use more neutral slash cool toned colors just to see what kind of looks I can do, because I have a lot of those palettes. And then another one that I've got this year was the Natasha Denona Glam palette. This was one that I bought because I thought it looked nice. And this is a palette that a lot of people kind of were turned off by it. They didn't really think there was anything special to it. They didn't really think that there was anything worth spending your money over. And this was the $65 palette. It wasn't the $100 palette. So it has 18 shades in it, which I think is pretty good for a palette, even if it's Natasha Denona or if it's more expensive or whatever. I think that's still a big price point. It feels very nice and luxurious. It's very weighted, and it has the little holes in the back so you can pop the colors out too, which is really nice, but I don't need it. If I don't like the colors, then I just won't use them. But it has the mirror, and I think it's a really nice palette. It was a really nice way for me to transition more into luxury items. I don't typically buy products over 30 bucks. And if I do, I get them discounted through Poshmark, which is usually the person bought it, decided they didn't like it, and they're reselling it for a lower price. Because typically what I find on there is that I don't like to buy stuff used, or if it's been swatched, I'll take extra care to make sure it's sanitized properly. But, oh, and my Poshmark market page is down below in the description box. So check that out if you're interested in some of the makeup that I wasn't personally interested in. Anyway, so I really like this eyeshadow palette. It has a nice selection of warm and cool tones, but it is leaning more cool. But I think the reason I really liked it was because it had all of the glitters and shimmers in it. And it mainly has shimmers. It has like a couple that look kind of glittery, but they're really not. This was kind of a palette that I saw the pictures and really liked it. And I don't really think it looks much like the pictures. I think they were edited to make it look a little bit warm tone. Like if it was between this and the bronze palette, like straight in the middle, I think that would have been like my go-to. But I found that these like really nice silvery metal looking tones, especially the shimmers, are what I gravitate towards. Like that's what I used to use. Like I would get this one NYX eyeshadow and just put it all over my lid and it looked fine on me, so I just kind of went with it, and that's what I used like all through high school and stuff, and even after high school before I really got into makeup. So it kind of like throws me back a little bit to those days, but I feel more like luxurious and like professional by using something like this that helps me create that look but make it look better and like push past that. I'm not sure if this is one I would recommend if you're a Natasha Denona fan, but if you're looking for a cool tone palette, I would definitely recommend this. Or if you don't want to spend the money, you could also get the Stone Cold Fox palette from Colourpop. This was one that I think really changed the game for Colourpop in terms of what they came out with. It really switched it up. They had their warm tone palette this size. They had one that was more reds and pinks that kind of reminds me of the new Jaclyn Hill and Morphe palette, the second one. And it also, they also have the one with Kathleen Light's So Jaded palette. But this one was one that really switched things to be more cool tone, made things very like more sophisticated. I really like all the shimmers in here and the fact that there's like pinks and golds and you know your true silver, which I really like using this shade, I'll tell you. Which that one kind of leans a little bit more blue, so you kind of have to be careful if you're not wanting to go blue. But the colors are really nice. You do get a good bit of like pinks or light pinks in terms of like this row over here. So it's not too intimidating in terms of being gray or black, but it really gives you the chance to like explore different options and go in a different route with your makeup looks. So I think that's what I really like about it. I would like to try the warmer neutral one and see how I like it and see how well it compares to this palette, because I feel like it would kind of help me fill out the makeup collection that I want to have, or, you know, have and like build on and whatever. Because like this has all of the cool tone shades that you could like ever need, but I'd also like to see how well the warm tones, like how the two palettes mix together, if that makes sense. So this was one I thought was pretty different for Colourpop and one that like a lot more people were excited for. The next one is from BH Cosmetics. Now this is a brand that I have been thinking about all year, how they have kind of just fallen off the radar. They came out with a couple things that were interesting. I know the ice cream collection was pretty interesting, and I'm thinking of getting the brown/nude neutral palette because the swatches look stunning. Like the shimmers in that look amazing, and I know that's definitely something I would use on a daily basis. But this was the first collection that I saw and I was like, wow, I really like all of that. And I want to bring up this first palette. Now, I haven't used these palettes. This one is like really well taped. This is the nice palette, the smaller one. The pan sizes are a bit small. Like if you can see, my whole finger basically covers that. So I don't really like that, but I got this on sale at Ulta for $9. So I'm not really complaining because it's not like I really got gypped or anything. Because like, but it's still originally priced, it was $18, which is kind of expensive when the pans are so small. But it has a lot of like nice shimmers to it and a lot of nice matte tones or matte colors. So that way you can really do a different kind of look with it. But it also has a bunch of different colors. So that way you're not sticking to something very neutral. And then their Naughty palette has a lot more colors to it, has a nice purples down here, which I think was what really gravitated me towards it. I'm not sure how well they would work, but this one right here, Candied Fruit, is a very shimmery purple, which I'm really interested to try. And then it has like a lot of nice reds to it. So this is definitely one I'm more interested to try. Whenever I first saw the pictures, I liked the nice palette more just because I felt like the colors really spoke to me more. But I've seen a lot of good reviews about this Naughty palette, so I would definitely recommend checking these out if you're interested. And I both got these half off at Ulta. They like immediately discounted them. And I don't really think it was because they weren't selling out or because they weren't good. I think it's just because people just kind of like stopped buying from BH Cosmetics because they were afraid the consistency or the quality of the palettes wouldn't be quite as good. But I have heard good things, so I'm very excited to try those out. I've just had so much makeup I've been trying lately, like new makeup, that it's just been really hard for me to get to everything I have. One of the older palettes I have is the Colourpop and Disney Mulan palette. I'm pretty sure this came out in 2020 because that's when the movie came out, and I think this came out like a while before, but it was still 2020. But this is one that I think Colourpop really nailed it. I'm not sure, I've never seen Mulan in full because I just don't like the premise of the movie. I'm not really interested in like all of the culture behind the movie. It just doesn't really like seem like something I'd be interested in, and there's nothing wrong if you are. It's just not something I personally gravitate toward. But I saw the colors in this palette and I was like, man, this looks really nice. It kind of reminds me of the Kylie Jenner palette for the, the brand Kylie that came out, I think for her birthday. It had something similar to this, but it had maybe a blue shimmer or something. But it reminds me of that, but this is so much cheaper and better quality. And it's pretty much made the exact same way because they're made in the same lab and like doesn't have Kylie's name on it, so it's cheaper. But I think this palette is so nice and like it was talked about a lot in 2020, but not one I don't think enough people talked about. It has some really nice shimmers and glitters. I really like these red shimmers in here. I think they're really nice. And then you especially can use these two like burnt red colors to make a really nice deep rich look. But then you also have this black down here to kind of like smoke things out. So it's a really nice palette, especially if you're into like more reds and browns, but then you can also do some nice gold looks with it. So I think it's something that like I would definitely recommend everyone pick this up before it gets sold out or they stop making it because it's just such a good palette. I'm really glad I decided to go with it. And then the last launch is the Odin's Eye Alpha 2 eyeshadow palette, and I have the mini forest palette and the larger Alpha 2 palette. I'm going to talk about the forest palette first. I've used this a couple of times. I really like these nice bright blues in here. You get one that's a matte one and one that's more shimmery. This one's a little bit more turquoise, which is honestly not a problem. I don't really have any shades like this in my collection, so that's kind of why I picked it up. I really like using this gold shade all over the lid. It looks really nice, and then this shade right here is a really good transition. And then I love that you get this split palette, the split pan. I'm not really a big fan of split pans, especially if there's no divider in between, because the colors can get kind of muted. But I think they did a good job taking advantage of the space within this palette by giving you an extra 2 shades in here. And they're really nice shades that go very well with this palette. I don't necessarily think this is one that you could use, like you can do an entire look with it, unless you use Little Deer, this brown shade, and then Spirit Forest as like an all over lid shade and just stayed very like gold. But other than that, you'd have to use like other palettes with it, which isn't really a problem. I'm not sure how much I paid for this, but I know that they are a European brand. I think that's what it is because it's in Euro money or something like that. Because it was a little bit more because I'm from the United States, but which is honestly not a problem because I'm willing to pay good money because I've heard very good things from Angelica Oles, from, I think, Abby Williamson's tried this brand out before. I've seen a couple people talk about this brand and they really liked it. I know that Julia Mazzucato liked this one as well. And I also have the larger palette, and this is from the Alpha 2 collection. Now, I have seen really good things about the Alpha 1 palette in this size that's very reds and yellows and oranges and very lighter and not so much a bright, colorful palette. But I decided to go with this one because I don't have blues and greens in my collection that look like this. And I'm honestly so glad I did because I did the prettiest look with these blues that you guys will have to go and find because it was so nice. And I just really like all of the reds and golds over here. I think they look so nice, and I was able to get a really nice fall look with this palette by using apricot in my upper crease, by using orange bonbon in my crease, and then by using coffee kind of like on my lid. But then I also went in with, I think, crystal and kind of put that all over the lid as well. It turned out so nice and I really like the way it looks. So this one you can kind of go different avenues and different ways. Like if you want to, you can go dark with the blues, you can go light with the greens. You can even go dark because this coffee shade is pretty dark. It's a deeper red, but it's still pretty dark. Like you have a very versatile way of going about this, about, doing a look. Plus the colors are so vibrant and pretty that like, I think it's one you should definitely keep in your collection and have on hand, especially if you want to do makeup on other people. I know it's not really something we're doing right now, but at some point, I know that those over in, I believe, New Zealand and Australia, maybe, don't quote me on Australia, but I know a couple countries were able to have New Year's as normal. So those people can go and do makeup on other people, but those of us in the United States, there's no end in sight. So we're kind of just do it on yourself, sanitize your brushes, and move on, you know, wash your hands. But yeah, I hope you guys really liked this video. I thought it was something different I could do, something I could reflect on and talk about things that I've liked throughout the year, and kind of, you know, watch the video next year and see how my you know, thoughts and opinions have changed, or if they stay the same. I'd like to know what you guys tried and what you guys liked, and if there's anything you'd recommend to me that I haven't talked about or done a video on. So definitely comment that down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you get notified when I upload. I will be posting new videos soon, so stay tuned for that, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!